Hello everyone and welcome to the third video of the game devlog series. My name is Bones and today I will show you what progress I've done in the past week. So first of all, many changes have been made to the enemy. Lots of scripts added. For example, the enemy has 3 scripts on itself and another script on a child named detector. Let's start off with a child. So the child has this big circle collider set to each trigger around it. I think you already know this from the last video. So it has the enemy line of sight script, which is basically just going to shoot a ray at the direction of the player every time while the player is inside that circle. All of this commented out code, basically what it does is when the enemy loses the line of sight to the player, it's going to increment this follow time, and if it ends up being over 5 seconds as I set it here, it's going to stop following the player, as if it couldn't see the player for 5 seconds and it just assumed the player got away. This doesn't work for this particular type of enemy, so I just commented out the whole code and I'm going to reuse it for something else. In the meantime, we have the scripts on the actual enemy, and they're gonna be the enemy follow, which, as it suggests, it basically grabs a reference to the player's position, stores it in a target transform variable, and uses vector to that move towards, and it's going to just move towards the player. How this works is basically the enemy itself has no colliders that can actually hit something, so it's a specter, that's what I named it. It's like a ghost. It goes through objects, but it cannot see through objects. Next we have enemy attack. Basically, if the player gets within shorter distance of 0.8 units, it's going to start taking damage. This doesn't work perfectly right now because it ends up draining the player's health very quickly instead of actually dealing some damage, waiting a bit, and then dealing some more damage. I'm gonna have to use coroutines for that. Basically, this is the damage, and at the start it's instantiated. It's not instantiated. It's assigned a value random between 5 and 10. I used start because I know this should be an update, so every time it hits it can deal between 5 and 10 damage, but that's just a temporary thing to show how this works. Next we have the enemy health, so the fact that the player can shoot is now useful because the player can actually kill the enemy now. So it just grabs a reference to the line of sight script. Basically what this does is, even if the player is outside of the maximum view distance and the player shoots at the enemy, here it is, if specter health is less than max health, then line of sight script that detected equals true. So basically the enemy is going to be able to see the player even if the player is not in the line of sight, but the player has shot the enemy, the specter. If the specter has less than or equal to 0 health, it's going to instantiate some death particles which I've set in the inspector, and it's going to destroy the enemy, the game object. Let me show you actually how this works. Actually, before any of that, I'm going to showcase everything else in terms of code. So the player here, player health script, I think you already know this, but now let me show you. Spectre. So you can see it shoots out that ray. it doesn't see the player just yet, and as soon as it sees the player, it's going to move closer, and the player is going to take damage if it gets too close. And you see now the health bar actually has numbers and works properly, and as you take damage, you see health is now 0. But yeah, it deals damage quite instantly, so because it's an update function, it actually it's a void, it's only trigger stay 2D, so I think it does it every frame while it is inside that distance. But now if I just shoot the enemy, I've set the enemy health to 50 and the projectile damage to 5, and as you can see, the enemy just died as it got shot. I don't think there's anything else to this other than the enemy health. So player, wait, the player doesn't instantiate yet. Yeah, that's about it for now. I'll see you in the next video, and that's probably going to be in about 5 days, something like that, because I need to do some catching up.